Okay, one of the first things I see if we're painting a loose landscape that beginners kind of tend to do that is kind of a mistake is using a small brush. Here I'm using a 14 round Princeton Neptune series. I'm grabbing some wonderful cobalt blue, and we're just going to put this, get a nice big brush. If you want a flat looking sky like this, just one solid flat or gradiated wash, you want to use a bigger brush. It just makes it simpler, cleaner, and quicker. Look at that kind of cohesive kind of wash, right? If you grab like a smaller brush, like a 10 round here, and you're grabbing the paint, it's going to take you a lot longer. You're going to be dipping your brush into the water. You're going to be reaching back a lot, especially if you're using a paper like this, which is Arch paper, and it's not going to be as even, right? This is a nice even wash. You're going to be struggling getting the paint back, and you're going to go in here and you're going to go, why isn't mine look so even? That's why, because you're using a small brush and you're kind of going back and forth to try and get the paint on there. You don't want to do that. You want to use a bigger brush. It goes a lot faster. Same is true if you were going to do some clouds. So I'll loosen up some paint here. I'll clean up my brush. I'm using the big floppy brush too, by the way. And if I want to get wet on wet, so I'll just do a small area here. See, I put water on the paper. Remember, 100% cotton paper is also key. Cold press. I do a nice big loose wash. So much faster with the big brush. Get the nice clouds in there. If you want to add more water to go across, it's so much easier with the big loose brush. You won't be struggling so much and you get some nice little pretty clouds. Now, try and do the same thing. I'm going to put some more paint on my palette here. So try and do the same thing with the smaller brush. Here you are just trying to get it wet on wet, and you're struggling, and you're just trying to get that with the small brush. It's just takes so much longer, so much more effort. And you start to see that you'll start to see some areas might dry faster, and then you don't get the paint faster. And this is, like I said, this is a 10 round. I'm mixing the paint here. Look how fast I'm trying to, like, oh my God, I'm trying to get in there. It's much, much harder. Oh, and then you're like, look, it's just, I mean, you know, it takes time. It's not as easy. It's much easier and smoother with this. You'll find you're grabbing the pigment too much, struggling. And especially if you want to do those wonderful gradiated washes, I just think that a small brush is just not going to happen on a large scale. If we're doing a 9 by 12 piece of paper, look at that. I'm just really struggling to get that paint in there. Even it doesn't matter if the puddle's big or not. It's just going to be much more difficult. Look, struggling. Will take you 2 seconds with a big brush. I always encourage you, even if you're a newbie, to grab, like, this is a 14 round. It's so much faster. And you want it nice and clean. Look how pretty that is. Don't want to struggle. Same thing goes true for the land too, right? So, and also another big mistake is, you know, you make your paint too saturated. So if we're doing a landscape here, we want to start off with a nice light wash, just like this. See, I'm just using the same brush, the 14 round. So we can go in and grab some darker color and kind of bleed into the light wash. So we have some nice nuance to it, right? You want some different tones, different colors. Maybe you can add a little bit more brown. And it just looks a little bit more realistic. If you mix your paint and don't have it diluted enough, right? This is the whole thing about watercolors, water control. If it's thick, which I love tube paints because you can make the consistency much faster. If it's thick like this, well, there's no nuance to this, right? Where you're going to see the like variations of tones and all the different colors in the grass. Even if you made it lighter color and thicker, so if I take the yellow, and it's pretty thick, and I added like a deeper green to it, but this paint color is not moving much, right? It's not very transparent. It's kind of saturated. It's very, very saturated. This one has more nuance to it. And then you go to put the color in, and it's all very dark. If you know, some watercolors can be a little saturated, but I don't recommend it because you're losing all the nuance to it, all the little different, nooks and crannies of the grass, especially if it's really dark, right? A third thing that people make a mistake when we're doing landscapes, especially with grass, is they do this thing I call soldier grass. Now I'm taking a smaller brush. This is a Princeton 8 long round. I use this a lot for grasses, and I'll just mix up some greens, some grass. And I'll talk about this in my workshops and retreats. Don't have soldier grass. And here I'm like diluting the paint. Soldier grass is this. So then we have the grass here, and then you want to put like real grass kind of coming off it, like longer grass. People tend to go like little lines like this, the grass. That's not how grass looks in nature. You don't want it to look like that. You want the grass to be kind of clustered, right? So up and down. So this is still very wet, like this. I up and down and wiggle and kind of move it shorter, longer, and connect it, right? Connect it, up and down, wiggle. So if I show you here outside, the grass should kind of look like this. It's connected at the bottom. And then you can have a few sprays that are longer. Now, it won't look great if you do a bunch of those too. Like, see, 1, 2, 3. People do this too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's like soldier connected grass. We don't want that either. We want, we have the plain here. We want like a few. So I'm showing you like this one's kind of still wet, but I'll dry brush this. Get a little thicker my paint. If you get the paint thicker, it doesn't move as much by adding in more pigment. So here, there's a cluster right here, and maybe one over here. I'm just suggesting the clustered the grass is kind of wild and free. We don't want this. We don't want this 1, 2, 3, like all those clustered grass. See how nice and pretty that looked as a nice clustered grass here and there? But if you start going like this, and then like this, and like this, and like this, it's kind of weird. We don't want to do that. It doesn't look natural. It looks kind of goofy, And if the whole thing is very grass oriented, right? There's a lot of grass. You'll be here for days using a brush like this, trying to paint all this like long grasses. You'll be here for days. You can start to play with a fan brush, even acrylic fan brush. I use an acrylic fan brush. I have a small one. You can just go like this and make some simple grasses really quickly. It doesn't have to be necessarily a watercolor brush. And make some nice grasses with this. If I do have a watercolor fan brush somewhere, I just don't use it because I just don't think it's necessary. You can take an old acrylic brush and just take out the bristles of it, like in between. See, I cut them off. And you could use that too and get a nice cool effect without having to buy a fan brush. I find the fan brushes that are watercolor split. They don't do well. So here's a watercolor fan brush. Not my fan. You get it wet. It does do a little split like this. And get the paint that's loose. It does start to make, to me, in my opinion, soldier grass. See how they separate like that? It's not ideal. I just find an acrylic one just better. It's not as separated. So you get a cheap old acrylic fan brush and a little clustery. It just lends itself better. Or start to use the tactic that I use, where you're kind of just taking your loose long round and just doing a few long ones here and there to indicate that there's long grasses, so you're not wasting your time. Don't want to do soldier clusters. You don't want to do soldier grass where it's like worst case scenario, you did that and you're like, oh, Ellen told me not to do that. I will tell you how to fix it. Just take a stiffer brush and kind of just take your paint and mush it out. Just whack it out. And then wait till it's dry and go back in and do something like that. So remember the first thing about the grass, we don't want to just do saturated color. Same thing for trees, okay? So here I've mixed some burnt umber with some Paynes gray. Lovely color. And I've diluted it. I've added more water for a reason, right? So if I start to pick a tree with the nice light color of a brown, it'll start to dry. We'll start off light. If we take this, I'm going to leave some of this color over here, get it really thick with those same two colors, doesn't leave room for nuance, right? You get this really dark tree. Now it would make sense, obviously, if the tree was obviously super dark and you really can't see any of the wonderful little bark. But again, it doesn't leave room for any nuance of darker, lighter tones, right? It's just saturated. It's just a flat tree. You want it to look three-dimensional. So here I've mixed that thicker color in with my lighter color. We can start to bleed some of that. Right? It's still kind of bleeding. It's still kind of light. You can add a little bit of gray in there by adding some ultramarine blue deep. Getting some more blue, getting it grayer. So it starts to have a nuance of the tree. It looks a little bit more realistic this way. Bleeding some gray in there. And then when it dries, we can add even another layer of color. So when it's dry, you can go back in with even the same colors and add another layer of bark. It's a much more interesting looking tree, right? And then you can grab your wonderful ultramarine blue deep. I mix it in with my burnt sienna or even some burnt umber. Get a nice gray color, more in the blue tone. And you can put that dark shadow on the right if the tree's calling for it. Right? That's a dark line shadow, but if you clean off your brush and just have some clear water and just go next to it, you can blend it so it's smoother, a little bit less, stark with the lines. You can just kind of blend those lines. It slowly gets darker. And then you can even add even darker line in the side. Just kind of bleed that. A little more nuance to that, a little bit more three-dimensional, looks a little bit more realistic. It's still loose. This one's so saturated, you have to go darker, so therefore you're getting the darker colors, and it just doesn't look as pleasant in my opinion. It's just so dark. So people go too dark too early, or some people go too light. Some people make a light tree. There's a light gray tree. And their idea of getting, darker with the tree is just to add like another layer like this. And that's the darker shadow. There's not enough contrast in my opinion. It really needs to get much darker with the shadows, or like the nuance of the shadows that you see, because then it becomes a little more interesting, right? It's nicely balanced. If it's just too light or too dark, it's not nicely balanced. Right, just right, like Goldilocks, in between is the wonderful trees here. So I have this wonderful sketchbook from Etchr called The Perfect Sketchbook. Some of these loose tutorials are on YouTube and some are on my Patreon. These are on YouTube. I think these are on YouTube, Patreon, some Patreon ones. This is YouTube and Patreon. I believe this is on YouTube. And this one too. This is a personal one. I haven't finished this one from a picture I have in Japan. Then I went to Japan. YouTube, Patreon, and YouTube. And I believe it's on YouTube too. Also, same thing here. One is on Patreon, one's on YouTube. So this one is on my Patreon that I did today with all the techniques I was talking about earlier. A simple landscape, loose daffodil field with some shadows in there and nuance with the trees. We don't want to paint it super dark and saturated. We want to have all these little lines that you can see. So you can see the lights and the darks and the shadows. Super simple. And if you want to join my Patreon, it's where you support my channel here on YouTube, which I really appreciate. Click the link in the description box. You'll see all the things you get on my Patreon. Lots of great stuff, real extensive tutorials with trace and photographs and all that great stuff. Some personal ones of mine, personal photographs that I've taken overseas and on my travels. So thank you guys for stopping by my channel. I hope you learned something when you're painting, if you're starting out in watercolor, and how to paint really simple, loose landscapes without, making too many mistakes. All right, take care, and I'll speak to you soon.